Hey everybody, I'm Kyle. This is going to be my BookTube channel. Thank you for watching. Today I'm going to be starting off with the Booktuber Newbie Tag, just something to get us started. You can learn some things about me and what I like to read and things like that. Let's get started with the questions. I'm sure you've seen one of these before. So the first question is, why did I start this channel? I just want to talk about the books that I like. I found BookTube last year sometime. And since then, I've gotten to know a lot of people in the community, especially on Discord and Instagram and stuff like that. And it's just like been a really fun community to discuss all the book thoughts that I have. And I just decided it was time to give this a shot myself, see what I thought about it, how it worked, how it all works, and put myself out there like that. I have a lot of thoughts about everything that I read. I'm a very incised, passionate person. I always want to discuss books. I never get tired of talking about books. And the only person I have is my wife. She'll be like, yeah, great. I'm glad you like that book, Kyle. Can we move on to other things? So being able to talk to all of you guys is very fun for me. Second question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? And I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to completely reinvent how BookTube operates. So what you're going to get from me, you're going to get book reviews. That is where I'm going to review the books that I read. I might even give them star ratings out of 5, so that you know what I feel about them. You'll be getting TBR videos. That means to be read. That is going to be the books that I'm going to read. Otherwise, you're not going to know what I'm going to read. You're going to get book hauls. That's where I'm going to get the books that I haul, and I'm going to show them to you. And you're going to be like, wow, those are some nice books. I might even get to use some unhauls, where the books that I don't like are going to be banished out of my house in shame. I can tell you why. You'll get wrap-up videos where you will immediately find out that my TBR is just a horrible lie, and that I'm really just flying off the seat of my pants and reading whatever I want, because I am a strong, independent man that don't need no TBR. I don't know what people say to this question in reality. I want to talk about my thoughts with people. I hope that my perspective can bring unique insights to some people. I study psychology and history in school, which is totally useless for job prospects, but it's really nice for discussing books. Right? You can take the historical context into it and really delve into the psychology of the characters and stuff, which is both things that I really like doing. If I'm able to just get one person even to be like, oh, I never really thought of it that way, or you brought up something I hadn't thought about, then I think that is a win for everybody. Tell you what, I have rabbits. They're very cute. I have 3 of them. If you like and subscribe, I'll show you my rabbits. That'll be my unique thing. What are you most excited about for this new channel? Well, Alan from the Library of Alexandria only lets booktubers do his book Jeopardy. So this is all really just a long con so that I can eventually be crowned BookTube Jeopardy champion. And I think this question's too similar to the first question. I don't really know why it's on here, because the thing that I'm most excited about the channel for is the reason that I would have made it in the first place, which is the community. Like I said, I want to talk to you guys about the books that I love, about the books I don't love. Tell me about books that you think that I'm going to like, all those kind of things, I'm just excited to be part of the group. The fourth question is, why do you love reading? I've always loved reading. I read a lot of fiction and nonfiction, and I think they both do fundamentally different things. Fiction really just transports you to a different place and time. You can experience the world through people that you will never know, perspectives you've never seen, and just being able to lose yourself in a story or in some characters and just really experience that is just really fun, right? Like that's why we love it so much. And you can really think about things that you can't process as easily. Through fiction, we can really recontextualize these types of things. And so that's always really interesting. I'm primarily a character reader, but I think that fiction books have like 4 pillars. That's plot, character, prose, and world. And if one of those pillars is really weak, then the book can still stand and be a great piece of work. But if too many of those pillars are weak and decrepit, the whole book is just gonna implode. And the 5th question is, what book or series got you into reading? This is gonna be a basic answer, but it's gonna be Harry Potter. I was 7 years old. My mom bought me the first 2 Harry Potter books, and it was kind of in a protest against my grandma, who was very religious, and she made me promise to not read Harry Potter ever. And my mom did not like that, and so she went out and bought me the first 2, and was like, you're gonna read these. You're gonna read them. I'm your mother. And then we were in a hotel room, and the only place I could read was in the bathroom with the light on, and so my parents were sleeping, and I just went into the bathroom and sat on the floor and read all of the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, if you're in England. I know, okay? Don't come at me. And I just read the whole book in one night. And my mom woke up the next day and she was like, "You read that whole book in one night?" And I'm like, "Yep." And I've been a Potterhead ever since. And after Harry Potter, I got really into Redwall and Hatchet and S.E. Hinton's books like The Outsiders, and Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events was also a really big series in my childhood. The next question is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Luckily, most of my favorite booktubers I already know a little bit or am friends with, and so I'm already annoying them with questions, I'm sure. Just assume by the time you've seen this video, I've annoyed them with all sorts of questions like, what is editing? How do you edit? Do you want to just edit this for me? Which is probably why, as the time you're watching this, I don't have any booktuber friends left. Other than that, though, I am interested in how people navigate the potential overjustification effect, which is a psychology concept where your extrinsic motivation is increased for something, which then decreases your intrinsic motivation. So for BookTube, that would be something like making videos to try and stick to a schedule, new books that you feel like need to be reviewed because they're really popular. Like if a Sanderson book comes out, you feel like you have to review it because that's what people are expecting. And so because of that, your intrinsic motivation to do BookTube at all might lower. And I think every YouTuber, to a degree, has to deal with this sort of thing. And depending on their own personal goals, how they deal with it is going to be different. How much it affects them is going to be different. And that's something that I'm just aware of because of my background. So that's something that I would probably like to talk to people with about how they navigate that. What challenges do you think a BookTube channel will be hardest to overcome? I don't know how anybody answers this question and have it not be editing, although I guess some people are just not editing noobs like me, but I have never edited anything in my life. I don't know how to do it. It just seems like a painful experience, but I'm going to learn for you guys. And then also just trying to keep to a consistent schedule between work and school and just life stuff. That's something that also I could see becoming an issue. The next question is, when did you start reading? So I actually started reading pretty late. My parents raised me on a carnival, which is a whole other thing to go into, and they wanted to keep me with them all year round, so they wanted to homeschool me, and I refused to read, like, at all. I had the logos on the VHS tapes, which, if you don't know what that is, ask an elder statesman. We'll be happy to tell you what a VHS tape is. And it had the little like Disney logos on them, and I was like, that's it. That's all that I need to know how to do. I do not need to know how to read. I know what Disney movie I want to watch. I will never need reading. My mom could not get me to learn how to read, so they had to put me in first grade. And I made up my mind. I was a stubborn kid. I was like, I am not going to learn how to read. And finally, just my general desire to do well in school kind of took over, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll learn how to read. And then the Harry Potter thing happened not that long after that, and it's been off to the races ever since. Question 9 is, where do you read? And I read basically anywhere that I can. I have ebooks on my phone, and I have a Kindle. Sneak in a few pages of that whenever I can, just to kind of get some reading in. For physical books, I read in bed with my wife. I read on the couch. I read at the kitchen table. But my favorite place to read is actually laying on the floor, which my wife does not understand at all. She's like, we have comfortable chairs. Just sit in a chair. And I'm like, no, it's way more comfortable to sit on the floor. Plus, I'll let up the rabbits sometimes, and they love to play this game called Can I Bite This Book? And they just haven't figured out that the answer is always no. But they're very hopeful that one day the answer is going to be yes, and that day is never going to come. So that's the fun little game that we play while I read. And the final question is, what kind of books do you like to read? I have pretty eclectic tastes. I read a lot of stuff. Primarily, it's been more sci-fi fantasy focused lately, just because for most of my life, I did not read that much fantasy and sci-fi. I read A Song of Ice and Fire a bunch of times. That's my favorite series of all times. And I still had Harry Potter. And I was like, that's it. I've figured out my fantasy for the rest of my life. I will just reread those whenever I need a fantasy fix. And then in 2020, I tried Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings, just because that had an insanely high Goodreads rating. And I just absolutely loved it. I binged the whole Cosmere right after. And then at the same time, I was reading N.K. Jemisin's The Broken Earth trilogy and R.F. Kuang's The Poppy War trilogy. And between those three series, which are all very different, examining different things, doing all sorts of different concepts, I was like, oh, fantasy is doing so many neat, fascinating, diverse things, and I don't really have a good understanding of what fantasy is. And I'm just going to have to read more of this. And as I read more, I just got more and more into it. And so now I'm trying to catch up on all the fantasy that I felt like I've been missing out on. So primarily, these days I read fantasy and sci-fi, but I still read a lot of nonfiction as well. I read psychology books, science, history, business, memoirs, biographies, nature, politics, basically anything that I feel is going to be interesting that I don't really know about. And then I also really like historical fiction, particularly the Bernard Cornwell and Conor Golden type, the more military, ancient history type. And then I also am a constant reader. I've read over 50 of Stephen King's books. I really like horror books, so that's probably be some stuff that I talk about as well. I will talk about Stephen King at any point. Just send me off and I'll go. I will primarily be talking about sci-fi and fantasy most likely, but whatever catches my interest at the time, I will also be talking about. So that's all the questions, but I'm going to add my own question at the end here, because those questions didn't stir the pot enough. This final question, as the ancient philosopher Willis Ferrellus once said, "It's provocative. It gets the people going." And that question is, star ratings, yay or nay? I've been seeing this discussion a lot on BookTube about star ratings and whether or not we should be using them, and I'm going to wade into the deep waters of BookTube on day one and say that we should just be using a 10-point scale, guys. Five stars doesn't make any sense. It's arbitrary. This is carried over from restaurants and hotels, and where it actually has some sort of valid meaning about what's going on, and it's just been misappropriated to the book community because of the overdue influence of Goodreads, and I'm here to fight this tyranny, and I say 10-star rating system all the way. Anyway, that's been the Newbie Booktuber Tag. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video, and remember, it's never goodbye, it's just till next time.